Coming off of the heels of UFC 287 and Israel Adesanya's second round knockout to reclaim the middleweight title over his rival in Alex Poatan Pereira, making the quadrilogy bout 3 victories for Pereira to 1 victory for Adesanya, although inside the UFC it is 1 apiece. It seems as if Alex Pereira has made his intentions known that he will not be chasing a 5th fight with Adesanya, but instead moving up to the light heavyweight division to challenge for 205-pound gold. I really like this move for Pereira based on the fact that Glover Teixeira has retired from professional MMA, retired from UFC competition, and the two teammates will not have to cross paths against each other in that weight class. Pereira is a massive middleweight, and going up to 205 pounds will suit his frame and probably allow us to see a more enhanced and ready version of Pereira than we've seen inside the UFC thus far. He was a 2-weight world champion in gloried kickboxing and had some great success winning a world title in the light heavyweight division in that sport. Now he's going to try to do the same thing at 205 pounds in the UFC, and I believe he will have a lot of success in the light heavyweight division. However, we have to get past a few things first, which would include the aforementioned UFC Light Heavyweight Championship unification bout between the current champion in Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill and the champion who had to relinquish his title due to injury but actually did so voluntarily in Yuri Prochazka. Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill seems to be the next fight for the light heavyweight title. So it would seem as if even if Poatan does move up to light heavyweight, he will have to go through a contender bout before he gets a crack at the championship. So let's look into the looking glass. Let's look at the UFC light heavyweight rankings and try to decide who would be a good matchup for Pereira's debut at 205 pounds. I've come up with 3 options, and I'm not going to include the Yuri Prochazka versus Jamal Hill winner because I feel like we will see Poatan step into the cage at 205 pounds before that title unification bout takes place. The first fight I like for Pereira's debut at 205 pounds would be a battle against the number 4 ranked Alexander Rakic. Although Rakic is currently recovering from an injury he suffered in the bout against Jan Blachowicz in a UFC Fight Night main event, his recovery should be wrapping up pretty soon and he should be expected to step into the octagon in the coming months. And I think a welcome bout for Alex Pereira against Alexander Rakic is a great matchup to test how successful Pereira can be in the light heavyweight division. The technical striker in Rakic, who doesn't seem to make too many mistakes when he steps inside the octagon, with great footwork, range management, deadly kicks, and technical punching combinations, pairing it with a really successful and dangerous wrestling and jiu-jitsu game, can give Pereira a little bit more than he asked for in the light heavyweight division. However, like I said, the fight should not be easy for Pereira's debut in this weight class, and I think this is the perfect measuring stick because Rakic is about 1 fight away from a crack at the light heavyweight championship. Would a much more rejuvenated version of Pereira at 205 pounds, or a much fresher version, should I say, be able to catch Alexander Rakic on the chin and put him away unlike anybody else has been able to do before, aside from that injury TKO loss to Jan Blachowicz? Or would Alexander Rakic be able to fight technically on the outside, catch Pereira with powerful counters, and then use counter wrestling to be able to ground the former middleweight champion? I don't know, but to be honest, this is my favorite option on the list of potential light heavyweight opponents for Alex Pereira's debut. But let's move on to the second option. Option number 2 for me is going to be a battle against the former light heavyweight champion in the legendary Polish power-wielding Jan Blachowicz. I think Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira, in many people's eyes, it might be too soon, considering it would be his debut fight in the weight class. However, coming off the fact that he beat Israel Adesanya and handed him his first professional loss in the UFC's middleweight division, he's going up against the man who gave Israel Adesanya his first loss in professional MMA and his first loss inside the UFC in Jan Blachowicz. And we just mentioned Alexander Rakic. Jan Blachowicz is the man who injured Rakic's knee and handed him that TKO loss in their Fight Night main event. Coming off of the vacant UFC light heavyweight title bout where the fight ended in a draw between Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 282, although Jamal Hill is the current UFC light heavyweight champion, it left a lot of uncertainty for guys like Ankalaev and Blachowicz, where they might either rematch each other or wait until the next fight comes up. Well, that next fight is right there for either man. And I love Blachowicz versus Pereira. I feel like Pereira could 100% knock out Blachowicz on the feet, but I also believe that the left switch kick of Jan Blachowicz, or the right stance shifting switch kick to the body, I should say, would give Pereira a lot of issues. I think Jan Blachowicz' low kicks could give Pereira some issues on the feet, and the grappling he showcased against the now UFC middleweight champion in Israel Adesanya to hand him that first professional loss in MMA, if it gave Adesanya trouble, it's going to give Pereira a nightmare to deal with inside the octagon. Although I believe Blachowicz could definitely take out Pereira with his grappling jiu-jitsu and top control, paired with the deadly low kicks, I think on the feet it would be a grave mistake for Blachowicz to stand with Pereira. And I think that's the case for a lot of men in the UFC's light heavyweight division. They do possess power, and more power than Pereira is used to seeing in the middleweight division. But the striking and the power, and specifically the left hook that Pereira possesses, could give Polish Power a run for his money. Pereira might be known as being the most powerful middleweight. In this fight, he would be going up against the most powerful light heavyweight. And would it be Polish Power that puts down Poatan? Or would it be the legendary Poatan Power and the left hook of Alex Pereira that would crack Blachowicz on the chin, taking him out like we saw in a UFC Fight Night main event years back against Thiago Magenta Santos? I'm not sure, but Polish Power versus Stone Hands Poatan is something that I would love to see, and it would be a very interesting test for Pereira in this division. And for the final, and in many people's opinion, including my own, most favorable matchup for Alex Pereira's UFC light heavyweight debut, it would be the number 7 ranked wild man in Johnny Walker. Pereira versus Walker would be madness from the minute the bell rung until the minute the fight was over, and it probably would only take under the 5-minute period in the first round to determine a winner. I think that Pereira would have a lot of success cracking a man who's been cracked on the chin multiple times before. And like I said, there's always that opportunity that Johnny Walker can land a wild spinning back kick, a spinning back fist, or a flying knee on Pereira and put him out. However, I think the technical ability of one of the best strikers in the world in Poatan Pereira would be able to find the chin of Johnny Walker early, often, and it wouldn't take much to put Walker away. If you want to build up Pereira in the UFC's 205-pound light heavyweight division and almost ensure him a win, but also ensure an exciting fight, guaranteeing a finish, then I think Johnny Walker is the man for the job. I think that this is the most favorable matchup that we've mentioned on this list, which I've already touched on, but I also think this is a fun and wild fight that is going to ensue one thing: violence and a brutal knockout finish from either Pereira or Johnny Walker. But this is the last option I have for Pereira's potential UFC light heavyweight debut opposition, and I think Johnny Walker, Alexander Rakic, or Jan Blachowicz are the perfect dance partners for Poatan in his UFC light heavyweight debut. Don't forget to hit a wheel kick on the like button, a flying knee on the subscribe button, and a signature left hook on the notification bell to never miss an upload from the Touch 'Em Up podcast on YouTube. And in the comment section below, let me know who you think would be the best option or the perfect opponent for Pereira's UFC light heavyweight debut. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.